Juvenile delinquency now is recognized as a major problem by the top law enforcement officials of the land.
Of course, Mr. Hoover, I realize that the FBI is a federal agency, while the problem of juvenile delinquency is necessarily a matter of local law enforcement. But our young people are getting out of hand everywhere.
Well, I know, Miss Robinson. Every report I get from the field tells me how enormous the problem is. We are doing all we can by working with the local agencies. But no amount of law enforcement can solve a problem which goes straight to the home. The solution isn't in arresting these youngsters. It's up to the parents to give them a home life which will be free from the temptation to delinquency.
Upon the home environment in which he grows up depends the character of every individual. Whether his family is rich or poor, the child needs above all affection that can be depended upon to give him a sense of security, of being wanted in the family group. He needs recognition as a personality, recognition of his childish achievements to give him self-confidence. Doing regular tasks as part of the family group, the child learns to accept responsibility and discipline and to understand the cooperative terms on which society exists. And it is from the example of his parents that he acquires the moral and ethical standards by which his adult life will be governed. It is when the family fails to meet these fundamental emotional needs of the child that society must take up the responsibility. But when the courts are obliged to intervene, young offenders must be given guidance and offered wholesome outlets for their impulses if they are to return to a useful place in the community.
Now, while you're on probation, I want you to remember that what the court is here for is to help you. Goodbye. These children, they're not really bad, most of them. Just products of rotten neighborhoods and bad family situations. They get into trouble, and then the burden is on the whole community.
Even more important than agencies of correction are those whose aim is to help the child before he gets into trouble. Today, enlightened communities maintain child guidance clinics, where parents whose home problems have been multiplied by the war can find the help they and their children so urgently need. More and more U.S. towns and cities are recognizing the necessity for more day nurseries, where mothers employed in war industries can leave their children to be cared for. But most essential of all is the task of providing a constructive outlet for the energies of the young, meeting their deep-seated need to feel that they are sharing in the war effort, giving them a sense of participation in the affairs of the community and the nation by fostering intelligent and spontaneous discussions of current issues.
As has been mentioned before, Hitler's been in power since January 1933, and he has indoctrinated all of his ideas into the youth of Germany.
And another thing I want to say is, I think that you do need occupation for a while, because I don't see how you can't have occupation. You can't finish the war and then let the Germans do whatever they want.
Everywhere, far-sighted citizens are urging that schools be thrown open after hours to serve the families of the neighborhood as social centers, where youngsters can absorb themselves in hobbies of their own or participate in government projects, like the making of airplane models for purposes of identification. For the average youth is in no danger of becoming a delinquent so long as he has something to keep him busy, some acceptable way of working off his normal exuberance and curiosity, some way of ridding himself of the tension generated by war. Wide-awake communities are doing their best to meet these natural needs of youth. Some have done it by providing a healthy outlet for the teenage boy's desire to show that he is as tough and daring as his older brother in the service. YMCAs, church clubs, boys' clubs, and settlement houses, which in peacetime provide youngsters with organized and supervised recreation, are today filling a more than ordinarily important place in the nation. To keep youngsters away from dives and drinking places, there is the Dry Night Club, organized and operated by the local young people themselves. Where they exist, experience has shown that most youngsters prefer these clubs to more dubious hangouts. In rural areas, the 4-H clubs are filling the need of country boys and girls for constructive social activity and keeping them interested in America's biggest business, agriculture. Such useful wartime projects as victory gardens have served the incidental purpose of giving the young a chance to make their contribution to the common effort while bringing them closer to the home and to their parents. For the well-adjusted home, built upon a foundation of affection and understanding, is still the surest bulwark for safeguarding the nation's youth. But while its men are fighting overseas for their homes and their country, the nation itself can ill afford to endanger by neglect the future health and happiness of that younger generation for whom the war is being fought and to whom the post-war world belongs. Time marches on.